Ladies and gentlemen, there is a battle happening within you, one that is unseen yet deeply felt. It is not a fight against people, circumstances, or even the hardships you have endured. No, this battle is far more personal. It is the struggle between healing and hurt, between freedom and captivity, between the peace you long for and the bitterness that keeps you chained to the past. Some wounds are visible, but the most dangerous ones are hidden. They exist in the heart, in the quiet moments when no one is watching, when the past plays on repeat, when anger, pain, and resentment whisper that you can never truly be free. But what if I told you that healing is not just possible, it is waiting for you? That the very thing keeping you from joy, from peace, from the fullness of life, is something you have the power to cut off today. Bitterness disguises itself as protection, convincing you that holding on to pain is the only way to ensure you are never hurt again. But in reality, it is a poison that does not harm the one who wronged you. It harms you. It affects your relationships, your happiness, and even your destiny. It robs you of the life you were meant to live. But today, you have a choice. Today, you can break free. This message is not just another speech, it is a wake-up call, a divine appointment, a moment that could change everything. If you have ever felt weighed down by past betrayals, if you have ever struggled to forgive, if you have ever wondered why peace seems just out of reach, then stay with me until the very end, because what you are about to hear is not just words. It is the key to unlocking the healing your soul has been crying out for. Let's begin. There exists an unseen force that lingers in the depths of the human soul, feeding on weaknesses that often go unnoticed. It does not storm into the heart with an obvious presence, but seeps in quietly, like a slow-moving fog that blinds perception over time. Unlike physical afflictions, which can be observed and treated, this force operates in the shadows, corrupting from within. It thrives on moments of pain, resentment, and disillusionment, whispering falsehoods so subtly that they begin to feel like truth. This hidden evil does not attack with swords or visible wounds, but with thoughts and emotions that grow distorted over time. A small offense that should have been brushed aside festers into an unhealed wound. A single moment of betrayal becomes the defining lens through which all future relationships are viewed. An unjust act from the past solidifies into an eternal justification for distrust, anger, and self-imposed isolation. This is how it works. Never in the light, always in the quiet recesses of the heart, where it is least suspected. One of its greatest weapons is deception. It convinces its host that it is a protector rather than a parasite. It presents itself as wisdom, urging people to remember every wrong done to them so they may avoid future harm. It masquerades as strength, telling its victims that by holding on to pain, they remain in control. It poses as justice, pushing the belief that release is only possible once the debt of suffering has been paid in full. But there is no payment sufficient for this evil spirit. It does not seek closure or fairness. It seeks to grow, to thrive, to consume. It operates in the realm of thoughts, shaping narratives in such a way that the heart becomes a battlefield of constant unrest. It makes the wounded believe that healing is dangerous because to let go of anger or resentment feels like surrender. It creates endless justifications for keeping wounds fresh, for replaying moments of suffering, for replaying future betrayals. Its whispers are so convincing that one begins to believe they are the author of their own inner torment, never realizing they have been manipulated all along. It does not limit itself to personal wounds alone. Once it has taken root, it spreads its influence outward. It fosters suspicion where trust should exist. It builds barriers between friends, families, and communities, turning minor conflicts into unbridgeable chasms. It distorts reality so that even kindness begins to appear as a hidden threat, and genuine attempts at reconciliation are viewed as traps. The person who harbors this evil spirit unknowingly becomes an agent of its spread, carrying its poison into every interaction, passing it on like an unseen contagion. Even in moments of joy, it whispers reminders of past pain, ensuring that no happiness is ever untainted. It turns moments of silence into battlegrounds, where old wounds are revisited and reopened. It thrives in secrecy, growing stronger the longer it remains unchallenged. It does not always shout. Sometimes it simply lingers, waiting for the right moment to whisper again. Bitterness is not an emotion that appears suddenly. It is cultivated over time, fed by the wounds of past offenses and nurtured by the mind's relentless replay of grievances. It begins as a small seed, planted in the soil of hurt, taking root when a person feels wronged, betrayed, or treated unfairly. The offense itself may have been real, but the power of bitterness is not in the event. It is in the way the heart responds. Unlike anger, which flares up and burns out, bitterness lingers, simmering beneath the surface, waiting for moments to resurface and justify itself. This spirit does not announce its presence with dramatic gestures. It moves quietly, altering thoughts and reshaping perspectives. It convinces the wounded that they must hold on to the past as a means of self-protection, that letting go would be the equivalent of allowing injustice to go unanswered. Over time, what began as a single moment of pain becomes an identity, defining the way a person interacts with the world. A heart once open and trusting becomes guarded and suspicious, expecting disappointment before it even arrives. Bitterness is deceptive because it feels like a shield, a necessary barrier against future harm. It persuades the mind that forgiveness is weakness, and that to relinquish resentment is to invite further suffering. It keeps the wounds of the past fresh by replaying them in vivid detail, ensuring that no offense is ever truly left behind. The offender, whether aware of the harm they caused or not, may move on, but the bitter heart remains frozen in time, bound to a moment that can never be undone. As bitterness strengthens its grip, it begins to manifest in unexpected ways. It distorts conversations, making neutral words sound like insults and innocent actions seem like calculated betrayals. It turns memories into weapons, twisting them into proof that trust is foolish and kindness is a risk. It creates a cycle where every new offense, no matter how small, is layered upon the past, reinforcing the belief that the world is an unkind place and that people are not to be trusted. This spirit does not only affect the one who harbors it, it spreads outward, affecting relationships, interactions, and even physical health. Bitterness leaks into conversations, turning discussions into grievances, laughter into cynicism, and hope into skepticism. It pushes people away, yet it blames them for leaving. It isolates its host, convincing them that they are the only ones who truly see the depth of injustice in the world. It makes joy feel foreign and peace seem unattainable, always offering more reasons to stay angry, more justifications for remaining in pain. Even the most well-intentioned gestures from others can be misinterpreted, as bitterness whispers that kindness is merely manipulation and that love is conditional. It creates an internal dialogue that turns every interaction into a test, every compliment into a potential insult, every moment of connection into an opportunity for betrayal. The person suffering under its influence may believe they are in control, but in reality they are being controlled. Bitterness does not merely reside in the heart. It spreads, embedding itself into the very fabric of a person's thoughts, emotions, and behaviors. It begins as a response to pain, a natural reaction to betrayal, injustice, or deep disappointment. But while wounds of the flesh may heal with time, wounds of the soul, when fed by bitterness, do not mend. They fester. What could have been released and left behind becomes a defining part of a person's identity, influencing their outlook on life, their relationships, and even their sense of self. At its core, bitterness thrives on repetition. The mind replays the offense again and again, each time reinforcing the sense of injustice. This repetition deepens the wound, making the past feel as vivid as the present. Even when circumstances change, even when years pass, the bitter heart remains bound to the moment of hurt, refusing to let it fade. The more it is revisited, the more power it holds, until it becomes impossible to imagine a world where the pain does not exist. This corruption does not stay confined to the original source of pain. It seeps into other areas of life, altering the way a person interacts with the world. Conversations become laced with cynicism, kindness is met with suspicion, and trust becomes an impossible concept. Every new encounter is filtered through the lens of past wounds, turning potential friendships into perceived threats, turning love into an opportunity for disappointment. The person afflicted does not merely carry bitterness, they spread it. It shapes inner dialogue, whispering lies that feel like truth. No one truly cares about you. People will always let you down. You must protect yourself at all costs. These thoughts become so ingrained that they no longer feel like external influences, but rather undeniable realities. The bitter person believes they see the world clearly, but in truth, their vision is tainted. They are not protecting themselves. They are imprisoning themselves in a fortress of their own making, one built with walls so high that even joy struggles to break through. Bitterness also has a physical toll. Studies have shown that prolonged emotional distress can manifest in the body, weakening the immune system, increasing stress hormones, and even leading to chronic illness. The body does not differentiate between external threats and internal turmoil. It reacts to both. The weight of resentment is not metaphorical, it is real, pressing on the heart, the mind, and the spirit, with a heaviness that cannot be ignored. Perhaps the most tragic aspect of bitterness is that it often masquerades as strength. The one who holds onto it believes they are guarding themselves against further pain, but in reality, they are inflicting wounds upon themselves. They believe they are standing firm, refusing to be taken advantage of, but in truth, they are allowing an old injury to dictate their future. Bitterness does not protect, it enslaves. It does not heal, it deepens the wound. It does not make one stronger, it consumes them from within. Bitterness never presents itself as something destructive. It does not enter the heart with the appearance of an enemy, but with the guise of a trusted ally. It whispers that the pain endured must never be forgotten, that justice demands remembrance, that letting go would be the same as declaring the wrongdoing acceptable. The mind, seeking validation for its suffering, embraces this reasoning, believing that to hold on to resentment, justification is the fuel that keeps bitterness alive. The mind collects evidence, revisiting past offenses, analyzing them from every angle, convincing itself that the pain was so great, the betrayal so severe, that to release it would be unthinkable. It becomes an ongoing trial where the bitter heart serves as judge, jury, and prosecutor, repeatedly sentencing the offender in an endless cycle of unresolved pain. This trial never truly ends, because justice, in the way bitterness demands it, is rarely achieved. Even if an apology comes, even if restitution is made, bitterness often refuses to be satisfied, always finding another reason to hold onto the grudge. This illusion is further strengthened by comparison. One sees others who appear to have moved on, who seem to have suffered less, who have not had to carry the same burden. Resentment festers in the heart, not just toward the original offender, but toward life itself, which appears unfair and unbalanced. The bitter heart sees the world through a distorted lens, interpreting kindness as insincerity, viewing happiness in others as a personal affront, believing that no one truly understands the depth of its suffering. It isolates itself further, convinced that no one else has endured what it has, deepening the divide between itself and healing. Even acts of self-protection become infused with bitterness. A person tells themselves they are merely being cautious, that they are guarding their heart, that they are preventing future harm, but in reality they are building walls so high that even love struggles to reach them. They avoid vulnerability, refuse to trust, and expect betrayal before it even comes. They believe they are being wise when, in truth, they are being ruled by fear, allowing past wounds to dictate their future. Perhaps the greatest tragedy of this illusion is that it steals the very thing it promises to protect: peace. The heart clings to resentment, believing it is preserving dignity, upholding justice, maintaining strength. But there is no peace in reliving the same pain over and over. There is no rest in carrying a burden that was never meant to be held for a lifetime. The mind believes it is defending itself against further harm, but in reality, it is choosing to remain bound to the pain, giving it authority over every thought, every action, every moment of potential joy. Bitterness is not a passive state of mind. It is an active force that shapes the way a person experiences life. It colors perception, alters emotions, and influences decisions in ways that often go unnoticed. What begins as a reaction to pain soon becomes a defining part of identity, turning wounds into permanent fixtures rather than passing moments of hardship. It is not simply a memory of wrongdoing, it is a constant reliving of it, a cycle that traps the soul in a state of unrest. To break free from this cycle, one must make a deliberate choice to sever the connection between past pain and present existence. The mind resists this separation. It argues that to release bitterness is to let go of justice, to allow the offender to escape the consequences of their actions. It insists that healing is only possible when the debt of suffering has been paid in full. But bitterness does not demand justice. It demands endless repayment, a price that can never truly be satisfied. It convinces the wounded that they must keep their pain alive, that they must hold on to resentment as proof that they have been wronged. The longer this mindset persists, the deeper the roots of bitterness grow, intertwining themselves with thoughts, emotions, and even physical well-being. Healing does not begin when the offense is acknowledged by the offender, nor does it require an apology or restitution. It begins the moment the wounded person decides that their peace is worth more than their pain. This decision is not an easy one. It feels unnatural, even unfair, to release something that has become such a powerful part of the inner world. But healing is not about fairness. It is about freedom. It is about choosing to no longer be bound by the chains of past suffering, to step out of the cycle of resentment, to reclaim the joy that bitterness has stolen. Cutting off bitterness requires more than simply wishing for it to disappear. It requires recognition of its presence, an understanding of how deeply it has influenced thoughts and behaviors. It requires an intentional shift, a moment of decision where the heart acknowledges that carrying the weight of resentment is not a form of strength, but a source of continued suffering. This process is not instantaneous. It is a journey, one that requires patience, self-awareness, and a willingness to let go of the need for validation from those who may never offer it. There will be resistance. The mind will revisit old wounds, searching for reasons to hold on to them. Memories will surface, demanding attention, tempting the heart to reopen doors that should have been closed. But with each act of release, with each conscious decision to turn away from bitterness, the soul regains a measure of peace. Healing is not the erasure of peace. It is the ability to move forward without being chained to it. The pain may still exist, the scars may remain, but they will no longer define the person who carries them. There is a weight that bitterness places upon the soul, one that often goes unnoticed until it is lifted. The burden is not always physical, though it manifests in ways that affect the body. It is an invisible chain, restricting movement, limiting joy, and shaping the way a person interacts with the world. The longer it is carried, the more natural it seems, as if the heaviness has always been there. Yet the moment it is released, there is a lightness, a sense of relief that cannot be explained in words. Letting go is not the same as forgetting. It is not a denial of what happened, nor is it an excuse for wrongdoing. It is an act of reclaiming control over one's own life, refusing to allow past wounds to dictate the future. The person who releases bitterness does not erase the past, but removes its power to control their emotions, decisions, and well-being. They step out of the role of the victim, no longer defined by what has been done to them, but by the strength they have gained through overcoming it. There is a misconception that letting go is an act of weakness, that it means giving up or surrendering to those who have caused harm. But true strength is found in the ability to walk away from pain without allowing it to shape every thought and action. It is far easier to remain bitter, to hold on to anger and resentment, to let wounds fester until they become an inseparable part of identity. What requires real courage is the willingness to release what no longer serves a purpose, to move forward unburdened by the weight of what cannot be changed. With this freedom comes clarity. The world, once seen through the lens of past hurt, becomes brighter, more open, filled with possibilities that bitterness once obscured. Relationships become deeper, no longer hindered by unspoken fears and unresolved wounds. Trust, once an impossibility, begins to take root again. The heart, which had hardened to protect itself, softens, allowing love and connection to flourish in ways that were once unimaginable. This transformation is not immediate. There are moments of struggle, times when the old wounds threaten to reopen, when the temptation to return to bitterness whispers like a familiar voice. But each time the choice is made to let go instead of hold on, the grip of the past weakens. The emotions that once dictated every response lose their power. The mind, once trapped in a cycle of resentment, begins to experience peace. What was once a prison of pain becomes a place of renewal, a life no longer defined by suffering, but by the strength found in moving beyond it. There is a freedom in letting go that cannot be fully understood until it is experienced. It is not a single act, but a continuous journey, a commitment to choosing peace over pain, healing over hurt, and joy over the shadows of the past. The past remains, but it no longer holds the power to define the present. Bitterness is a thief that quietly steals peace, joy, and emotional well-being, binding the soul to past wounds that should have been left behind. It disguises itself as protection, convincing the wounded that holding on to pain is a form of justice, that letting go is a sign of weakness. Yet, in reality, it is not the one who forgives that remains in chains. It is the one who refuses to release the burden. True healing begins the moment bitterness is cut off, when the heart chooses freedom over resentment, peace over anger, and renewal over suffering. This is not an easy journey, nor is it a single decision made in an instant. It requires daily choices to let go, to reject the whispers of the past, and to embrace the present without the weight of old grievances. It is a process of unlearning patterns of pain, of replacing thoughts of resentment with thoughts of peace, and of allowing love and trust to take root where fear and cynicism once ruled. But the reward is immeasurable, the gift of a heart unburdened, a mind free from torment, and a life no longer controlled by what has been lost, but filled with what can still be gained. No matter how deep the wound, no matter how long bitterness has taken hold, the choice to be free is always within reach. The past may have shaped you, but it does not have to define you. The moment you decide to cut off this evil spirit, you step into the life you were meant to live. one of healing, wholeness, and unshakable peace. May you find the courage to let go of what no longer serves you, the strength to move forward without the weight of resentment, and the wisdom to choose healing over hurt. You deserve a life filled with peace, joy, and freedom, and that journey begins the moment you decide to release the past. Thank you for taking the time to reflect on this message. May you walk forward lighter, freer, and ready to embrace the fullness of life ahead. Stay strong, stay hopeful, and always choose peace.